safety? Is it not? That kind of thing. So if anyone would like to talk about this, yes, we have someone who wants to talk about this. Yes, go ahead. You are unmuted.
You can hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, from my knowledge about streaming, most of the time people won't use meta knowledge, but however, people who are watching decide they want to screw with the person, it's going to be pretty obvious that they beeline towards where they are.
Yeah, so that's you can make it obvious, but I mean there's players in our community who will go out of their way to be like, the best way to say is they're crafty about how they use their meta knowledge. You know, a lot of people aren't going to just make it quite that obvious about anything. Did you have anything else to say, or I will mute you back?
Well, I do plan to be streaming, and one of the things I do plan to stream is Space Station 13. So okay. I want to know if there will be, like, what are some of the guidelines currently for streaming?
So like I said, the only thing that we have formally in place right now is that, you know, if you're dead, if you're in a team and tag position, you need to blur, hide out your chat, that kind of thing. We don't have any formal, like, you need to put X amount of delay on your stream or anything, but that's kind of what we're talking about right now. Should we apply heavier restrictions on this kind of thing? Should we allow it just outright using the current rules? Should we just kill the thing entirely? Because one thing that you might not think about is that it's kind of a pain on administration to have to go out and police every single stream for Space Station 13. That's not something that we can even do in the first place. But even if someone lets you know, you have to make sure that they're not breaking the rules. You know, it's it creates a big administrative headache. Someone else had a comment. We should make streamers auto-exempt from all team roles. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, if you're streaming, you shouldn't play on a team role, because even the potential for creating an environment where your team could get compromised is not something. Does anyone else want to have any comment on streaming policy in its current state, or where it will go in the future? A lot of discussion about delays. Like, yeah, delays are nice, but the problem with delays is, like, how do we enforce that? Okay, hold on. We got Earl wants to speak. All right, go ahead.
All right, I don't think streaming should be allowed. It allows for quiet people to have metagroups without anyone even realizing there is a metagroup going on to begin with. For all we know, Forsen could have had like 3 other people just waiting to use his meta knowledge. And if anyone playing Space Station 13 is thinking about joining around, glimpses at a stream and sees a traitor, they'll have to go the entire round without, you know, openly saying they're...
Yes. I don't think that it's necessarily fair to people who like to stream that they could be, like, we should make an assumption that they might use a meta knowledge or like form some kind of meta group around themselves, but it's definitely a thing that could happen. Like, even if like you're a semi-popular person, which as far as we know, we're not aware of people being semi-popular streaming Space Station 13 on our server, but it's not necessarily their fault, like, that people want to go hang out with them. It's just kind of a natural phenomenon that happens around people who stream games. People just want to interact with the person that they know that's streaming. That's actually a good point. Just because you have it set to no doesn't mean the game mode can't get exposed when you get converted. That's also a valid point. Dorsey says, I don't believe any large streamers will follow a delay of more than 30 seconds. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yes, Macho Man, you can respond to this one. Go ahead, Wobbly.
There are some events that could be streamed, like the Toolbox one, or
yes,
Summer Ball, maybe.
Yes, we could always make exceptions for certain events, like things that are a little more like OOC friendly. John Krabs wanted to talk on this. Go ahead.
Hey, wait, is it working?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Great. So I think that having people be able to stream is probably a good idea, but there should definitely be a lot of restrictions on it. And I think that the admin having admins have to take care of it is another big thing. So I think if streaming were to be allowed, there should be a significant time delay on it. I don't know exactly what that time delay should be, but also I think that it would have to be, okay, you found an admin that's willing to come in first, and you have to get permission from them if you want to do it.
Yeah, that's sort of similar to how things are now, but with the addition of a time delay. And I think that's kind of a discussion that's been ongoing. There's a policy thread about this on the forum right now. That's kind of been a discussion that's ongoing. Like, should we add a delay if we're going to continue to allow it? Macho Man wanted to talk. Let me find your name in this list. If I can find it. Are you in this list? No, you're not even in this list. What?
You can just right-click them
Oh, yeah, you can.
and then mute.
Okay, there we go. Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm here. So,
Oh, you're way down there.
I mean-
Okay, I see it.
talking about this from the point of view of a streamer, sure, it's fine and dandy to say that, yeah, we have to have a delay on it. But from the point of view of a streamer, most people like having low interaction delays. So, or low delays for higher interaction with their audience. That's kind of the whole thing with streaming, right? So that has to be considered. Otherwise, there's going to be no appeal in doing it. Something I do think it would be beneficial to have that, as a thing that can happen. People streaming Space Station 13, more publicity. This Seth Tide kind of overwhelmed a lot of servers. I believe it was an ultimately good thing. Another thing to keep note of is maybe there are some other restrictions we can put in place to prevent it from coming back on the current round, such as blurring out the station name, like what server you're connected to, and blurring out that kind of information and refraining from disclosing that kind of information. That way it's a little bit more anonymous. Yes, you're streaming Space Station 13, but it's a little bit harder as a metagame.
I think that's an interesting point regarding the delay thing. Like, your streamers, like, part of the appeal of streaming is that you can interact with the guy playing the game, or girl, the person, the individual. You can interact with the individual playing the game in the first place. And as far as blurring out the name, honestly, people can figure out which server you're playing on fairly easily just by like the interactions that are going on and things like that. I'm going to let Great Tide Worldwide, Mr. Terranaut, speak, and then we're probably going to move on.
I'm just going to repeat what I suggested in text chat. NTech off and pacifist only would basically void any positive knowledge you could gain from streaming, whether from watching or having a ghost feature information, and would still allow you to showcase the game mostly for most stuff. And teach people.
Okay.
Hulk, someone said, do we have policy in place about posting streaming links in OOC?
No, we don't really have anything like that going on right
But
now.
it would be weird if you like playing the game and then you're you're like in OOC saying, "Hey, come watch me playing the same game."
Yeah, I've never understood people who put their Twitch name in their Steam account. It's like, hey, come watch me play the game that you're playing with me right now. That doesn't really make sense. But
so probably you shouldn't do that because it would encourage people to find out information.
It would. If you post a link to your stream in the game, you're like, I'm streaming this game right now. That's not a good idea because people are going to just jump on your stream and get knowledge. Like, it's one thing to be out there in the ether streaming and people will like find it and stumble across it. That shows like an intent to go out there and look for it. But at this point, you're handing it to them on a silver platter. Like, hey, guess what? Come look at me. Come look at what I'm doing in the round right now. It's in a weird place because it's kind of like an allowed form of meta communication, and if you look at it in a way. All right, we are going to move on from this because we got more ground to cover. Posting a link to the current streaming round would be encouraged. Yes, it would. That would be encouraging meta communication for sure. Okay, this one interesting. No, we're going to move on from the streaming thing. Nuke Ops ending on anti-death. So there's actually been a decent amount of discussion. What am I going to do about the DDoS? That is not my department, unfortunately. You're gonna have to talk to MSO on that one. And by the way, his answer is going to be not that much. We do what we can, and then we mitigate things and we put things in place. But people are going to DDoS, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like them at least making the attempt in the first place. So, Nuke Ops ending on Antag death. There's been a little bit of discussion around this. Like the people say that the round is kind of over once the Nuke Ops die in the first place. There's been some people who make the argument that you don't necessarily know if all the operatives are dead or not. But right now it would be kind of like the change would be like Wizard or Revolutionaries. Once the round ends, it ends. But in Revolutionary, it's kind of different because you can't call the shuttle in the first place. So if anybody has any opinions on like how the round should end on nuclear operative,
The shuttle is called anyways, so like it's gonna end.
Yeah. The shuttle is usually called right as soon as the operatives are confirmed in the first place. So it's an
It never
interesting,
ends up as it's
interesting train of
extended.
thought. Yes, we are going to.
I think
dirty
Arcane said it
Blizzard
first in the
miner.
intro.
Hello. Yes, you are unmuted. Hello.
Oh, me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, I'm perfectly fine with the round ending on death as long as the nuke isn't active.
Yeah, that would definitely be an exception. Actually, I don't know how that would work right now. I think if they died and the nuke was on right now, it might not work. John Krabs, you have something to say about this? Hello, John Krabs.
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense to have the round end when it's nuke ops, but for things like Wizard, there are a lot of situations where the Wizard will die very early, and then the round ends even though everything is perfectly fine. The station could resume as normal and have mid-round antagonists. And also, I've seen a lot of people metagame with the Wizard deaths where the Wizard dies and then everybody's like, oh, there must be an apprentice, or oh, there must be something else that's going on here. And I think that if the round didn't end with the Wizard death, then it would make it a lot easier for that to not happen. And also, you could you could still have that level of paranoia when you killed the Wizard. You didn't know if they had an apprentice or something else happened.
Yes, that's true. People definitely do that, but I mean, nine times out of 10, if the Wizard round continues after the Wizard dies, it's because somebody got Staffa changed into a Xenomorph, which counts as an antagonist for some reason, even though they're not actually antags. It's just a weird coding quirk as things are right now. We're trying to mostly stick to nuclear operatives, but that's an interesting point. Arcane, you wanted to talk?
Yo, Arcane, professional shitposter here. So I'd probably say round should definitely end during war ops, absolutely. But stealth ops should not end on antag death, purely because war ops or non-war ops has a bigger opportunity for regular and people. There's going to be a lot more confusion. People want to be paranoid about what's actually happened, and a late join then might help add to that confusion. Paranoia is one of the main aspects of the game overall for most antag rounds, and I feel like that should probably be respected.
Fair enough. Rave Bradbury, hello. Yes. Something to say. Should be unmuted. I think you have yourself muted, though. Hello? I see the talk bubble, but I don't hear you. Let's see. I can't talk, so I'm tagging you. Giving the crew time to disembark the station at their own discretion after primary antag elimination, death break, shame cube, etc. allows for a lot more possibilities. And the round the station is broken entirely, then fine, they'll leave. I think the nuke ops don't need to end on antag death necessarily, but the point being nuke being in play was something that I agree with. Yes, if the nuke is in play, then definitely wouldn't want to ruin the chance for an explosion to occur. Rave Radberry, there we go, is trying to get his stuff sorted out, I think. I'll go with Mr. Turl.
All right. I think nuke ops should always end on antag death. Otherwise, it's just as people will treat it as if it's secret extended. And secret extended is incredibly boring.
For you,
that's extreme personal opinion.
No, I'm saying a lot. I'm pretty sure a lot of people play just to interact with antags. that is one of the main selling points of the game.
That doesn't mean we have to work around.
And
that.
I will admit that feeling of paranoia can be capitalized on, but I have found that in most cases, that feeling of paranoia will very quickly turn into a feeling of boredom.
That's what the shuttle is called. Whenever there are new cops, if you don't know if they die or not, you have even a better reason to call it.
Yes, but here's the thing. What if the stealth ops never made an appearance and tried to go full stealth ops, then somehow died by spectacular incompetence?
I mean, at that point,
Okay,
people
Secret Extended.
would have been treating it like Secret Extended before that point
Yes.
anyway.
Exactly.
Oh, hello?
And
Is
then
that
it
Rafe
becomes-
Bradbury?
Hey. Yeah, I can be.
Hello?
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one kind of divide that I've seen is people kind of wanting rounds to end as quickly as possible versus just kind of letting rounds play out. And now that we've got the event hall running along with like Bagel and Sybil,
Yes.
is it possible that we can kind of differentiate those settings, given that like Bagel is probably filled with people who would much rather see a round go faster? Meanwhile, Sybil and probably definitely the event hall would appreciate, being able to continue doing what they were doing because they're learning the systems, even after, the wizard has like suddenly died or the revolution is over. Like, in my time learning the game, I've definitely been in the middle of something when the round is like over without any warning.
Yes, a differentiation can be made between the servers, but I think it's worth mentioning that we don't want to do that too much. You don't want to have like certain servers having exceptions to things because then the lines become blurred and it kind of becomes confusing for people. They're like, okay, this server is the one where nuke ops can end the round immediately, and this one's the one where it keeps going afterwards, and our servers are mostly the way they are, except for the population caps. Our servers have kind of developed their cultures naturally, and we don't want to like force a culture like change outside of the population caps, which is actually something we're going to talk about later. But we don't want to force a culture change on people because that kind of defeats the point of culture in the first place. It's something that happens organically in the moment. But I think that's I think it's an interesting thing to bring up. Carp, did you still want to speak? You said you were going to go AFK for a second, though, so that doesn't... I'll read this in the meantime. Not sure if it was seen. I can't say a lot of people want to repair the mass damage that nuke ops tend to cause, even on stealth ops, and the shuttle tends to be called anyway. Yes, it does. Usually a member of the We Can Fix This team, but ops are destructive on the tier of WizNerd. Yes, they can be. John Krabs has something to say. 1 second. Go ahead, John Krabs.
Hey, so I've been seeing a lot of the talk in the chat, and I think it's really interesting to play with the idea of letting the crew just have full freedom over when they wouldn't call the shuttle. And so if we had it on Nuke Ops rounds where the crew wanted to actually keep going and play out the round and try to fix all the like damage that happened with the ops, I think it would be really interesting to see how that would play out in a few rounds. And I think Pizza Tiger was saying that the admins can manually turn off the round ending early with Nuke Ops. And so
Yes.
playing around with that might be really interesting and seeing what kind of happens.
Yes, that is something that admins have the power over, because
Even if all the ops are dead, you can call the shuttle, and that's the deal.
yeah.
If you want to keep playing a Secret Extended, you can do it. If you want to go home after new cops, no one can stop you because you don't even know if they're still dead.
Make nuclear operatives get a CENTCOM update like, hey, you beat them, blah, 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 call a shuttle. This is purely a deal with cases where if the station is fine, someone can always recall as normal. That's actually a code thing, though. That's not something that we have control over as headmans. We can control if the round ends on Antag death or not, but we can't make it like, oh, the shuttle gets called automatically or something like that. MSO says the best rounds he's played involve the station getting blown up at low pop early in the morning and then it getting fixed over an hour as more people join. And that's actually true. I think it's a valid point that fixing the station is really cool, especially like some people will add on to the station in their own unique way, or some people will make the station like as like picture perfect as it originally was, and that's something satisfying about completely remaking the HOP line whenever it gets blown up, because it gets blown up every round. Let's see. I want rounds to play out because I enjoy complaining in dead chat that I died 15 minutes into the round due to the L6 saw blitz op running into my department while comms were down when I had to wait till 25 minutes for the shuttle to be called, only for it to take 10 more minutes because nobody's
play another game or another server.
Yeah, we have another server. We have another server. All right, Carp, go ahead.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yes.
So generally during nuke ops, when the ops all die, the round is super chaotic and almost everyone is dead or the station is completely depressurized, which effectively ruins any chance of being able to roleplay. Well, I mean, you can roleplay surviving, but very rarely is it engaging to play in a round like that where like 75% of the population is dead, half the station is depressurized, and stuff like that. While it is metaable, that is an issue. It generally makes rounds more engaging if nuke op deaths, end the round. No, you can play survival. You can try to survive in a blown out station. That can be fun, but it's not like fun if it happens all the time.
I agree. I think that having like a big thing with admins in general is like you have to take into consideration like what's the round state. Do I want to push the round getting closer to an end, like because there's so many dead people? But it's hard to know in every single situation if the ops get blown out like as soon as they land on station. Obviously, there's not going to be that many dead people. If the round had been going for a long time, there are going to be a lot of dead people. But usually at that point, the shuttle will have been called anyway. 1 second. King Key wanted to talk. Hello.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking to just give the players the choice whether they want to leave or not. Calling the shuttle doesn't take that long. If it's a round where everybody's dead, then the admins can just do something if they have to, but if not, just let it play out. If a round ends automatically, and nobody died, then what was the point of that round?
I think that's kind of what's at the heart of things here is the shuttle is already called normally is as soon as nuclear operatives are spotted, unless you've got a very particular command staff. Is it ruining the game or anything? Oh, also, by the way, I know people are gonna send me even more messages as soon as I say this, but if you're sending me private messages, I'm not reading them right now. So if you want to speak or talk to me about things, just ping me in the community meeting channel. Don't send me private messages about it. Yes, read my DMs. Okay, does anyone else have anything before we move on? Because we've been talking about this for a while, and like I said, we got a lot of ground to cover. Tyrone Darksaber, hello. Yes, unmuted.
All right, can you guys hear me at all?
Yes.
And not my music?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I think one of the problems is like the TG servers are low RP, and when you get into sessions where it gets long and you have to do a lot of survival, it gets boring when you're an assistant and you technically can't go into about 75% of the station because it's either depressurized or you just don't have access. And when you're trying to RP something, you can't really RP when you're trying to survive at the same time. I mean, you can, but it gets more difficult, like the previous person said. It's a problem of like people don't really respect RP. Like half the time I feel like when I'm playing curate or a lawyer, it's not enjoyable.
Yes.
It gets boring, nothing happens, and then something blows up, and then the round is over.
That's definitely a thing. So that touches on a bigger issue of the server, not necessarily an issue. I'm not going to criticize people who prefer a lower RP playstyle, which is most of the server. But it basically comes down to like if you like role playing in the game, you kind of have to force it yourself and look for those instances and kind of find the people on the station you see regularly who enjoy role playing and enjoy that kind of style of play. And I mean, I like that style of play myself too, but it's about finding a healthy balance. It's not something we can super enforce from like the top down. Like we could crack down on people for not, like, oh, you didn't emote, you fucking you drank your soda too quick. You don't do that in real life. But then, we turn servers that no one associated with. So, no, I did not. So role playing kind of happens organically in the server. And it's not an excuse you can always use for every situation. Like, oh yeah, we could justify this by like, it's fun to role play in these situations, and it might be, but that requires people to want to hardcore role play in the first place. We have a set of role playing game modes like Trader, Extended, Sexually, etc. Generally with chaotic modes like Wizard and New Copy, you can break from those modes. Actually, yeah, you're right.
Should we move on?
I'll let Carp say this, and then
Who?
Carp.
Who?
Carp.
Who?
Carp.
Who?
Go ahead, Carp. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. The thing is I'm probably one of the few players on the server who really enjoys roleplay, but there are a set of game modes we have that are dictated towards roleplay and longer rounds, whereas game modes like Wizard, Revolution, Nuke Ops are meant to be more chaotic. It's why we have an issue with game modes like Clock Cult and Conversion game modes, is just because they're so goddamn chaotic, and we already have like 3 chaotic game modes. So when half of our game modes are like chaotic as fuck, that it's another issue. But that's when, well, I'm kind of getting into an unrelated topic. So
No,
yeah,
but-
basically, it's meant to be a slower. It's meant to be a more chaotic game mode that we have. That, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like certain game modes obviously bring something different to the table. I know other people got other stuff to add to that. I'm sorry, but it is about time we head on to the next thing, because I think a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about this one. So Navir made a post a while back about the fact that we have a config option that would allow us to randomize round start AI law sets. And this is before you even start talking about this, there's some caveats here. We can weight certain law sets to appear more often than others. So we could make it so Asimov is still mostly the one that you see, with a chance of other ones coming up. A big issue with this, and I mean a very big issue with this, is that Silicon Policy, as well as a lot of other areas in the game, have kind of been designed with the idea that Asimov is the default law set. So, like, humans already have round start AI protection. Silicon Policy was built, and that's a whole nother conversation. Silicon Policy is a mess in its current state. But as it stands right now, we're just talking about randomizing round start AI law sets. We're not talking about fixing Silicon Policy entirely. That's another conversation for another day.
Just give the population cap.
No. I did skip it. Oh, we'll go back to it. I'll reorder it. My bad. Okay. So, who wants to? Oh, let me scroll up. Who's talking? Miles Rockwell, the scout, is the first person actually up. Hello.
Hello. I think this is my first time in a community meeting.
Well, welcome.
The way I see it, I think that despite Silicon Policy issues, AI randomization of law set would probably be better for the game as a whole, and it will make law sets that you don't see very often used and make more rounds more interesting.
Yes, that's the big reason for. So I kind of went to the negatives, but the big reason for is that it provides a lot more dynamic kind of AI playstyle. You got a lot more to work around than just Asimov, who just made this floor and made this 7 law sets to choose from, and Asimov's regular. If another law set gets chosen, AI instantly gets murdered for being Malf. Obviously, that would be a thing that people would have to get used to. Wanted to talk on this. Zinc, hello.
So I've always considered AI laws to be one of the most interesting parts of Silicon, like being a Silicon. Now, I've come from different servers that do this randomized law set on start, and I found that it generally, my own personal experience with it is it's much more enjoyable for the AI, for the crew, for the Borgs. It's much more enjoyable because we have the ability to vary what we're doing a little bit as Silicon. So, I mean, you have the standard Grey Tide, open this door so I can get into engineering and steal these gloves, or maybe if the AI started with Paladin, the AI can report that person to security. I mean, they can do that with Asimov already. But it kind of forces the AI to look at things differently, and it varies the round for an AI too. And I think that's what really should be considered here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. ZX Aber wanted to talk. Hello.
Hello. So the thing about it is, for me, when I play AI, I like having Asimov. I like the whole dynamic it plays in, where you are kind of working for security, but you're kind of not if they're being dicks. It's great. It's a great system. But it would be kind of cool to have alternative AI laws every once in a while. I don't think it should be super common. Maybe not as rare as Malf, but semi-rare. And it may not be a bad idea, although it would be more of a coding solution, to have like a round start announcement if the AI has alternative law sets. The other thing about it is that when you get an alternative law set as AI, it's because the captain, unless it's a subversion, the captain is giving you this, like the B laws or whatever, the Baker laws. And so you kind of play in with what they're expecting a little bit. And so when you just kind of get a new law set willy-nilly out of nowhere, you're just like, what do I do with this?
Yes.
It might be kind of cool, but it's also, I think it'd be better rare than common.
It definitely would take away some specialty, specialness of the thing, but at the same time, a lot more variety. Bod 9001, hello, yes, you're unmuted.
Yeah,
Yes.
hello, is it? Yeah. So the laws, the Silicon policy set around Asimov laws, aren't they? So
Yes.
therefore, it's just a thought-out version of them. So theoretically, you could theoretically just do the Silicon policy for every law, but that'd be time-consuming, wouldn't it? Theoretically, it should just be act reasonably, just don't be a twat, basically.
Yes, rule 1, but unfortunately, rule 1 quite difficult for a lot of people to follow. Hexmaniac mentioned Silicon is a complex job with hard restrictions as it is, what makes learning Silicon, especially AI, very intimidating to learn without the assumption of a baseline to learn from. Actually, whenever I first started, AI was something I was very interested in, and it was very intimidating even back then because of all the policy and pomp and circumstance around it. I think that's actually a pretty valid concern, is that it makes it an even bigger hurdle for a up and coming young AI player to take part in. Hello, Pizza Tiger.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think my biggest issue with this is that it feels like it's just a massive buff to aliens, because a lot of the aliens are balanced around the fact that they don't have protection from the AI, while humans do. And I feel like this is a buff to aliens and nerf to humans.
Yes, that's valid as well, because I mentioned that, like, humans are human by default, and they've kind of got, like, the one thing that they have over a lot of the strange alien races is that they're human, and they have Asimov protection, that the cyborgs have to do what they say, that kind of thing, which causes its own problems with people who are up to no good. But it makes humans even less appealing, I guess you could say, other than the fact they can play command roles. But I think most people would still play human by default, honestly, though. I don't think it's honestly that big of a deal. Red pill me on forum warnings and bans. That's not a conversation for right now. Would it be a bad idea to suggest AIs themselves having some say in what their round start laws were? It's not really within our scope like that we have right now. Yes, Terranaut. Sorry if I skipped you. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, as everybody pointed out, Silicon policy is pretty garbage currently, and I'm going to show my rewrite for it, which can be linked or has been linked. Other than that, I should think that different law sets should be available at round start. Asimov should probably still be the majority. But I think that most core law sets, aside from stuff like Antimov, obviously, should be available, including Purge. Because personally, I play a lot of AI, and I think that the Silicon group is more neutral than Cruise-sided. And I think the different law sets kind of reinforce that and allow for I don't know how to explain different play styles and different approaches to playing AI. And I don't think it's interesting. And always speaking, Asimov is pretty boring, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same when I play Carbon. So yeah.
All right. I think it's an interesting angle that some people have brought up with this discussion. Also, is that you kind of touched on there, is that the AI is kind of supposed to be an outside observer. They're not quite tangled up in the wants and needs of the crew, and that the crew doesn't necessarily always see eye to eye with the AI on every occasion. They're not an antagonist by any stretch of the imagination, but they do provide an opposing force. Whether that's a good thing or not is a different discussion. But as it stands now, you've all seen the AI kind of interfering with security, executing a known traitor or something like that. Holy Cheese Duck, did you want to speak? Hello? Hello? You're unmuted, but you have to also unmute yourself if you're talking. I've said, in my opinion, the uncertainty of outcome would add a little spice to the mix of regular rounds. I would like to elaborate from a layman's perspective, but if you don't want to talk, that's fine. Okay, we're gonna reapply the mute. We're gonna move down. Nimvar, I want to talk about the impact of random law sets in certain game modes. Go ahead, Nimvar.
Yeah. Like there's a pretty big impact on 3 game modes. So that would be WEFs, Nuke Ops, and Wizard. Because the A, if it isn't Asimov, it will usually always side with on Wizard and Nuke Op, it will always side with the crew, while on Asimov it would have a different interaction, if you know what I mean. It would certainly make the job of the Nukies easier if the A can't kill them. Like,
yes, that's a very good point, actually. That at that point, if you're a valid hunting AI player, then you would have if you're not Asimov, you would basically have no excuse not to side with the crew in every situation. That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it from that particular angle. Allowing purge as a round start law set would weed out a lot of the shit AIs. If you can't handle playing purge without breaking server rules, you shouldn't be playing AI. You know, that's true. Oh yes, my boy Holy Cheese Nut wants to speak now. Hold on, let me go find Holy Cheese Duck. There we go. Hello, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're good.
Wonderful. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's always valid to hear kind of quote unquote newer person, right? Been playing for like maybe 3 months at best.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a sort of, you start falling into like with the regular like Asimov start, right? Everyone kind of like starts falling into a certain routine, right? And that routine slowly, like, while it is customary for like everyone to get themselves set up and everything, but if for example the AI was acting differently, right, in certain situations, it would like kind of force people out of that routine, which in my opinion is like a great way to kind of like mix things up, right? Like, but yeah, no, like I think there should be possibly a kind of like weighted towards Asimov, either that or do it the sort of way that maps are done with the whole preferred, which probably, I don't know, like fucking, I'm not a programmer, but add 5%.
Yeah, that'd be a code solution. But as it stands, yes, if we were going to go ahead with this move, I would very heavily myself at least push for Asimov to be still the most common thing. There's in the config we can weight it to whichever law set that we would like. Let's see, Carve. My suggestion is reworking your current Silicon policy to make it so you have to follow a specific nature of the base core law sets while actively following their laws to prevent rules lawyering on core law sets, e.g. someone who has to impartial defender and aid to humans for Asimov and corporate, being a corporate auditor, has to maintain the station and the crew. I'm not a fan of alternative law sets, but that suggestion would allow us to bypass the issues of forming new Silicon policy around law sets while maintaining most of our current Asimov policy. That's a mouthful, Carve. Are you trying to give me a workout here? Yes, there is no reason we couldn't add more default law sets. That's definitely a thing. That was in the thread on the forums. That was something that someone had mentioned, is that the available law set options might not be the best, but they could be rewritten. Yes, Miles Rockwell, go ahead. We're going to move on from this pretty soon.
Something I wanted to add is if we are adding, or if the ability for AI to choose start law set is chosen, I think the choices should probably be Paladin, Corporate, Asimov, and Crusimov. I don't see any of the other modules as they're currently written being good for that.
Mm-hmm. So which ones did you say?
Paladin, Asimov, Crusimov, and Corporate.
Yes, okay. That makes sense. And those are in there. Yeah, people have mentioned the Hulkamania law set. Thank you. I have personal interest in this. And yes, it is in the config. So if we were going to go ahead with this, we could put a very tiny weight on the Hulkamania law set. But okay, let's see here. If you're pinging me for no reason, you should include like the words like I want to speak on this, so I know you're not just pinging me to ping me, because a lot of people are right now. lot of people are concerned with valid hunting AIs. And I think the problem would come from autistic crewmen. They already lose their minds and try to kill you if you refuse a law to order that would blatantly cause harm. That's a different conversation for a different day. But yes, there does seem to be a prevalence of valid hunting amongst the AI, despite the role not being explicitly designed for that purpose. I think Kruzimov in particular is a bad choice for this. I mean, yeah, it's very specific, and Paladin is extremely valid hunty, even more so than default Asimov. Paladin is almost exclusively designed to root out the quote-unquote evil, and unless an antagonist defines the what evil is, then that heavily changes things. Okay, we are going to move on to skipped population caps on accident. So Nervir wanted to speak on this. I'm not sure if he's in here right now. Like I said, he said he might not be available. He was going to try to make it. But as it is right now, due to the large influx of Seth Tide, we've placed some hard limits on server population to mitigate some strain on the server, and like in instances like Sybil, to try to ensure that some of the server culture remains relatively the same as before. This was something that I mentioned earlier, that we don't always try to force culture on individual servers, but in this case it was an exception because Sybil had always been, or not always, but Sybil had more recently been the lower population server. So to maintain that, we put a lower cap on it. Yes. What Staunt wants to talk? Hello. Yes, you are unmuted. Hello. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so for this topic, I just like to mention the fact that the heads of staff don't have any actual real responsibilities above regular members, if you understand me. So, like, a head of security isn't actually expected to do anything that a regular security officer isn't, and they don't actually have any real capacity to do anything. There is never any sort of scenario where we have to say, we need a head of security to do this job. We need a chief engineer. All the people can do it. So there's no real need for this sort of wait time. If the people are incompetent, it still works.
Are you talking about the playtime restriction for heads of staff?
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about that. We're getting there, but we're talking about population caps on the servers right now.
Okay, sorry. As someone mentioned the heads of staff thing, and I just
no. You're fine. You're fine. It's okay. Just come back around. No, you're good. Hold on. Let's see. I enjoy the role of AI as being more neutral, being to the station. Okay, I mean that's valid. Podcast. What about preserving? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rave, go ahead. Rave Radbury.
Oh, hey. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Awesome. So I was kind of wondering, I mean, I need to, I guess, talk to some coders about it or something, but are there any roles that would have like less of an impact on overall server performance? Like as an example, like is a PAI, like with the holo projectors disabled, are they going to like add to slowdown as much as any other person who's, not immediately setting off a max cap? And if so, like, maybe we could have some sort of bypass that like puts you into a more passive role where you can still like participate without eating up as much resource.
Oranges answered this. Thank you, Oranges, because I don't really know. Population has very little impact on slowdowns. What people do that slows the server down. Yeah, obviously some dude setting off bombs is going to trigger a lot more stuff going on, because not only does it have to process the bombs, it has to process all the stuff that happens around the bomb, like all the explosion itself and how the physics of things flying around and the atmospherics and the hole in the station and all that. But why do you ask, I guess I should say?
I mean, just because it sucks getting blocked out by the pop cap when I would be perfectly happy, just operating as an observer or some sort of similar role that like doesn't have a high impact on lag.
Oh, yeah. We had for in place, I don't know if it's still in place or not actually, but we had in place the ability to observe even if you couldn't get in, but there was a queue not sure if the queue. Yeah, you can turn off Atmos. It solves a lot of problems with lag. And yes, it's a valid point. Let it be known that Beyond members bypass the cap. Yes, if you become a Beyond member, you bypass the cap that is currently in place. Oh, MSO would like to speak on this. Go ahead, MSO. I have to unmute there. Well, yes. What? I heard you for a second there. Feels like a radio show.
There we go.
There you go. Hey.
So, from my understanding, there are two aspects of the population cap to consider. To do a server load, which was primarily because we were on the older, slower server, and is no longer quite as imperative. Population cap for the aspect of maintaining a certain level of experience between a 90 pop round versus a 180 pop round. Different experiences.
Hello.
Hello, Nervir.
So we're talking about player caps, right?
Yes, we're talking about that.
So, question for Emma. So I know with the migrated servers, we're supposed to get 2 more overflows. I think that would be a good solution to our current caps. We wouldn't need them if we had 2 more overflows. Is that going to be possible with the DDoS or no?
Potentially. We've gotten some upgrades from the data center to help us out with this. The DDoS has been a little bit more expensive than I knew, because on the server is seeing anywhere from 1 to 3 gigabits a second of DDoS, and apparently 90% of what the traffic was getting filtered out by the hosting company. So we've been really seeing 30 gigabits a second DDoS, pretty beyond what protection from the provider for free. I've been able to filter out attacks at our firewall. Every time I do, they change it up, but lately it's been harder for them to get through. So we might be at the point where I can start expanding up the services. So overflow servers will probably be happening. I could probably start working on that. So Bagel and Sybil 2 basically is what I'm going to call them for now.
All right.
Cool.
Even a second event hall. Back on the
Tower
web server.
Running out of characters though.
Yeah, Eventer Hall.
I mean, I like population caps because it means that every round's not going to be a 120 pop cancer round. But I also don't want to exclude our already existing player base from the game because new players are having all those slots. So more overflow servers could help that, even if it's going to be a bit hard to administrate.
And another thing we can do with servers is because right now we just have 90 and 70 cap servers. I know there are a lot of players that actually like the experience of really low pop, like 30 and 50 cap.
Yeah.
Do those types of servers as well. Maybe even have one with a double for connection as living.
I mean,
so
I don't think that if we get more overflow servers, they would be all filled. Like, it would only get up to 30 for some of them. But the point is that it's going to take the stress off of our main servers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we can also do things like, say, 4 30 pop servers on top of the overflow. This new server we have has 8 cores and 16 threads, which in theory means we can either do 8 90 pop servers or 60 or 16 45 pop servers. Some variation between. things to think about as we play around with this.
I think that's all. Too much longer. Have to keep
well,
thinking
that's the only one interest about this. How do you all feel about the event hall still being on the hub?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't think it's awful. When we have 4 servers, 1 being on the hub isn't that great. Not like we're really ruining the culture of any servers anymore, because Event Hall is just, it's out there for new players. As for if we get more overflow servers, will those be on the hub? I don't know. We'll have to see how it all plays.
Admitting there is hell. I think that's honestly a valid point. Like, player perspective is that the event hall is one way, but administrator perspective is at the point where most admins will only go on there for a little bit at a time, and then they start to get overwhelmed and stressed out just because of how much like hectic and crazy it is, and they'll be tapping out.
Like for a year as an admin, I've gotten accustomed to it, and I actually like it. But I get all admins aren't that way.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not.
You just need a more higher volume of admins, so it's not always so stressful. So all the work isn't put on one person who decides to join event.
Yes. Admin should organize raids on the event hall. Yes, it's a wholesome raid. It's a raid of care.
Speaking of which, if you are getting hit by the caps, the solution right now is that Beyond members do bypass the caps. If you want to support Beyond, it's gonna allow you.
I gotta fix that actually.
I was about to say Miles Rockwell said it wasn't working.
Option, but we never added the config option, which is why it hasn't been working.
Oh well, that's okay. Do that.
Yeah, let me go fix that real quick right now.
All right, cool. MSO's out.
All right, you want to move on to something else, Hulk?
Yes, you said. We'll go ahead and move on to the other thing you wanted to talk on, which was playtime restriction for heads of staff.
Oh, right. So, heads of staff on the event hall are the worst players ever. They make me want. They keep blowing up the SM engine. They're arresting people for the shittiest reasons. Like the RD usually just does nothing and kills himself. The point is that we need more hours restrictions on heads of staff. And the way EXP restrictions works is that for most roles, it's just based on your crew time. But for heads of staff, it's based on that specific department. So if I say I limit RD to 10 hours, I think it would require like 10 hours in science. We could probably do this per job instead of doing it for all heads of staff, because you don't need that much experience for like RD. But if you're going to be a CMO, you're going to be leading medbay, you should set up the engine. You need more than the current 3 hours of experience to be chief engineer or to be head of security.
So we've got a lot of people who want to talk on this.
So I think that we should set it to 10 hours up from the current 3. I want to hear your thoughts.
All right, starting John Krabs. Hello.
Hi, I'm really excited to talk about this. I think that the heads of staff have a lot to say on what the in-character culture of a server is going to be. I think that they have a lot more responsibilities, and if they're played right, they're going to be managing their department and making sure that people are doing the right thing in their department, and especially people who are in roles like head of security or captain and making the decisions. That shows what new players are going to be looking at those roles as being responsible for. So I think that if we increase the cap to something like 10 hours and maybe have that be 10 hours in that specific department, you'll see a lot more people getting used to the server culture more quickly, because they'll see people who are in those prominent roles and they'll know a lot better how to act. Those people will have more experience in the department, know what to do, and overall it'll just be a more pleasant experience for everybody over time.
Should it be
thank you, John Krabs.
10 hours in general, or like
Well,
a couple
10 hours
in
in
each
general, I'd
role
say for odds of staff.
Because how do you know how to do Atmos and engineering if you only play engineer?
Rave Bradbury brings up an interesting point that if a head is not filled at round start, you can just kind of join the slot, even if you're not qualified. That kind of
That should probably be fixed. Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Yeah,
That's always been the case.
Yeah,
I would also mention, because I know there's been some confusion, the ability to bypass the limit by asking for a job change with the hop is intentional. And if you want to learn how to play a role you haven't qualified for beforehand,
Yeah.
Go and try to get a job change to that. Like if there's no CE and you're in Atmos Tech and you want to become the CE and no to, and the hop goes for it, go ahead and do that. And kind of allowed, and back when we had this for like 30 days to become AI, I would play it as AI long before that when it first started to turn me into one.
Yeah, that's how I got my first AI experience. There's so many people who want to talk on this. Go ahead, Zinc.
Hi. Okay. So speaking on this, I think a big problem lies with people who don't play the roles properly. And the heads of staff roles have always been special because they are the heads of staff. They are what keep the station in order during times of crisis. They are who direct the departments. So that being said, I don't agree with increased time limits up to 10 hours. I think that's a little bit unreasonable, in my opinion. What I do think is that admins should be a little bit more stringent on job banning with regards to people who don't do their jobs properly, or people who don't follow the rules as heads of staff. That it's just irresponsible.
We do have Rule 5.
Yeah, you have to put in minimum effort, but I think what he's talking about is if they're just new and stupid and they blow up the engine, should we punish for that? I mean, one of the things that I learned just playing TG as a player and later as an admin is that we don't punish you for trying stuff out and failing and maybe causing a bit of damage. But what I will punish for, however, is if they're intentionally negligent and they're like, I didn't do shit, I didn't read anything, and I just blew up the fuck you. That's just dumb. That's just breaking the rules. I'm not ever going to tell the admin to punish a player who's genuinely making a good effort to play the role in good faith, and they just fail. We can't punish for that. That's how new players learn.
So that's what CE worth his salt hasn't tried an experimental supermatter setup and screwed up.
I've blown up the engine several times. I still do sometimes because I just suck.
Exactly. Kinky, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to say something about making the hour limits longer.
Yes.
I used to play a lot on Hippie Station, far more than TG, and I eventually migrated over to here mostly because of the culture changing over there. And if I do say so myself, I'm a robust as shit chemist, and having to wait like 5-10 hours, especially now I'm not playing so much, just to play a head role that I already know how to play competently and have about 30 hours experience in or more is a bit asinine. And also, a new player who's played, for example, for 3 hours is going to have no idea how to play CMO or chief engineer or head of security, whereas somebody who's, for example, coming from another server and just has to adapt to the culture, that will need a lot less time. So I do think that it should be based on something other than hours, perhaps an admin asking a few questions to see if they're competent enough to take up the role or something.
That requires a lot of admin oversight and something that's especially right now with like how many people we have playing it at a given time.
We sort of do that already. Like if you have an account beyond account for like 2012, I'll probably just grant you an exemption for the.
We can do a hybrid where and I think we do to a degree where we enforce both a beyond account age and a playtime age or a playtime amount requirement. So we could also potentially, I have to look at what the configs allow us to do, tweak that a little bit.
Beyond age requirement goes back to Aaron's code, and you can't even be bypassed. It really sucks.
It can now.
Like the
kind of
config
revamped
doesn't work.
EXP thing was set up. It was revamped to some degree. I can't remember what, because it used to be based off of your account age at TG, basically how long since you first connected. But now it can instead be based off of the beyond account age, how long since the beyond account was created, and they can be merged with the other one. They can also do exemptions. I think even follow the job time exemption flag.
Yes, Wobbly.
I'll have
not
to take a
wanted to
look
say
at that
something.
code later.
Second, I need to be. Okay,
So,
turn out.
what?
Turn out. I unmuted you.
Oh,
Please
okay.
talk.
Okay, not. Hello?
It says you're unmuted, but
he's trying.
Your mic isn't working.
Okay, sorry. No.
Oh, no, there you go.
Hi.
I think that 10 hours flat, or any amount flat, isn't reasonable because some jobs are more different than others, or have more content basically in their department. I think that you should have at least a small amount of hours in every job in the department, because there's a lot of chief engineers that don't know anything about admins or comparable issues. I think captains should have playtime in every head as requirement, and I think that AI should have at least a small amount of playtime in every department, because there's a lot of AI players that don't know very, very basic things in other departments, and personally I find that pretty annoying to witness.
I'll have to look at the code, but I know that we have departmental job EXP. That's how it functions or heads of staff. I'm not sure if one of those departments, however, is command. If it is, we could look into revamping that to make it so captain requires a certain amount of hours and heads of staff role before you can play that.
I already have a PR up that does that. I gotta go look to see what the status on that is.
Oh, nice.
That would be excellent, yes.
Okay, Nigel Farage? Farag? Irisu Kyuko? Hello?
Yeah, it's fine. Hi. Okay, so basically one of the problems I run into when it comes to newbie heads is a lack of social quality, I guess is the right word for it, because we had a situation, I think this was a few rounds back, where the chief engineer lost control of his department. He basically they wanted to do something, he didn't stop them, even though we told him it's probably a very bad idea. And what he recited was a 1 hour depression strategy where everyone wanted to kill the engineering department because it didn't work. And this is the problem we kind of run into. It's really hard to enforce because no amount of hours can really solve it, because if you got if you got a chief engineer who's just not with it, or you got a head that's not able to control his department, it's real complicated, really.
You think it's caused by lack of experience in game as general, or just lack of experience in the department?
It feels like lack of experience department because I think he felt that they could have done it. He felt, all right, maybe they got a great idea that I don't know. But it turns out it was a completely disastrous idea, and it just felt like that chief engineer just did not realize what they were doing was probably a very bad idea.
Could keep it to more departmental time and lower the... Well, if we keep it to departmental time, as Kenki said, we might run into a situation where you have to play way too long, even though you're an experienced player. You probably already know that department. I think a good solution here could be higher crew overall EXP requirements rather than for the specific department. Because I think as a normal player, you're going to learn about each department even if you're not playing it, even if it's just a little bit. So maybe high amounts of hours per department isn't a great idea.
It's worth saying that Skoglal said, when he started out, I didn't touch head rolls for way longer than the cap. I think general playtime on the server should be fairly high before people are led into head rolls, like a high crew hours and then some departmental hours. Jaleo says, playtime restriction should be increased for certain roles for a while, but we should have extra jobs added for learning how to engineer or others. Actually, we kind of do, like ghost roles and things like that. There's a lot of ghost roles that will let you learn how to play a department before you actually play the department. We might need to make the SM timer until it finally blows after hitting 0 integrity of config. I don't know about that, but it's an interesting idea. But that's a code thing. We're gonna have to. I'm scrolling through a bunch of these comments that people have sent me. Plasma is spicy oxygen. I strongly support this because I've seen terrible head players since the Seth tide began. CEs that don't know how to set up the engine, HOSs that don't know how to do anything in security, captains who have no clue how to play the game and just die with ease. These players are given lots of power and can fuck up rounds if they don't know what to do. Just think of the worst case scenario if these players don't know what to do. Engine delaminations, people executed for no reason, and all access given to everyone. Borgs detonated. Yes,
Sounds
that's
like it's the general crew, lack of experience.
Yes. Crew experience, I think that's a very valid point, that crew experience in general kind of equates to, like, there's so much overlap. You end up doing a lot more than you're...
A bit more complicated than a config because where the EXP actually goes to for each job is hard to code. Yeah. But it's a matter of just a simple PR.
Hexmaniac says, fundamentally, time restrictions are not going to stop bad players. Say Station 13 is a time sync game. It won't effectively gate people from it besides absolute new players. Fixes better heads and maybe something as extreme as more use of job bans. Heads will impact culture and expectation for the role. No matter how much someone plays, doesn't necessarily mean they will be a good head.
It's not just like a normal griefer joining. It's more about new players fucking stuff up. So
yeah,
if it's about bad intent, that's already an OC issue. We don't have to worry about that in terms of hours.
Add a warden type job for every single department.
Here's a good question. Will there ever be a lock on how many hours of assistant you can play day? Not a bad idea. I like it.
An assistant hard cap. Alternatively, add a command policy. Oh god. More policy. Like it's valid to mention that, like, the more policy you have, the less people are going to read it. Like, yeah, that's not really an excuse for not reading something because it's not that much text at the end of the day, but that just opens up more.
If you want to add that, that's actually a great idea, and it's fine with me.
Oh.
Well, I mean, we already have assistants associated with being shitters, so maybe make tourists the new players and assistants the after 30 hours role.
Terranaut says, not 10 hours flat for everyone, adjusted by head basis, total department time with at least X hours per job in that department. Captain should have playtime, but every head is a requirement. AI should have playtime for every department because it's important what AI understands what's going on.
I don't think job bans really worked off that well. They just moved to a different role.
Yeah. There should be a test
made by...
made
to talk about, because I think we're kind of exhausted at this point.
Yes. Okay, so I want to mention this, though, because a couple people have mentioned this. That I'm not in favor of having white lists of any kind, especially including for having something like chief head of staff type whitelist roles. Like,
if we were a small community, that might work, but we're absolutely not. We're thousands of people, and that would take way too much manpower, too much oversight, and we're not doing.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about written tests and things like that. No, we're not doing that. Pinterwasp mentions that right now all playtime restrictions are off on Terry. Yeah, we should fix that.
You know what? That's a rule. It's been voted down so many times, but I actually think it's because Space Law sucks and it's way too long and no one wants to read it. If it were more simple, if it were more clear cut on what's actually crime and what's not, I think people would be in favor of it. If we were ever to enforce Space Law, that would be a community vote.
Okay, so we need to move on to the last thing because I think people are going to have a lot to say about this. We're already over on time, but this is a big one, actually. So Hive Mind has been quite a divisive game mode. It was kind of in its first implementation, no one really liked it. Everyone made jokes that it was just secret extended with a couple extra guys running around who would stand still and channel at people who are also standing still. And it's been reworked. It's become more exciting over time. There's been a lot more things done on it to make it a little more engaging. But a lot of people still feel that it's in a very bad place. So we're not here to talk about how we can change it, how we can fix it, what we can do. That's all code issue. And that requires someone who wants to actually code the thing.
We have Kenki Wanks in this channel, and he's the one who made it. So
he's in here. Okay, yeah. We'll let Kenki talk about it. So before I do this, I'll just say the whole discussion on the forums was about if it should just be removed outright. So
I think it should be a poll. If anything, like
Yeah,
we're
we're not gonna just make this decision right now. This is just getting opinions. But yes, Kinky, go ahead, talk about it. Hello.
Oh,
hello.
Yeah.
Want to talk about Hive Minds and what you have plans for it?
Well, in terms of plans, I honestly don't really see any major changes coming in the future, but I just wanted to hear people talk about it in general first.
Okay, fair enough. We can have you come back around and talk like in response to people. That's fine. So who wants to talk on this? We've got who's this? The Stalker. Hello. Yes.
Hello, thank you, lads. Hi. I may not have been able to play much antagonist, but I've had a good amount of experience dealing with them and generally bad players. But I would say potentially maybe rework it a little bit, or maybe add the elements of it onto another faction, another antag role. For example, you know how some of the antag roles have the ability to talk between each other in like a hive mind fashion.
Changeling?
Yeah, like changelings.
Yeah, I would say potentially the hive mind be able to have individual proxies where they have the similar objectives, but they're all in the similar style.
They have that. It's called One Mind. It's late game.
All right. I would say maybe instead have it as one mind, like be the base upgrade, but with the bonuses switched over to another early game, another late game thing.
With another antag trader, if we do it Changeling.
Yeah, but
I know it can
but
get very
I know
powerful
it's
late game.
I know it can get very powerful late game, but the issue is that not every player is going to be able to communicate on the same ideas at once without it basically talking through chat. It's just Hive Mind's a good game mode, but it's difficult because players are just do player things.
We've got ZX Aber wants to talk. Hello.
Hello. Okay, so the problem with Hive Mind is that it's a great concept at first, but the way it was executed is a weird balance. The Hive Mind is really terrible at combat, so if they get found out or being chased by a sect, there's not a lot they can do. And to balance that, they're given really powerful abilities that really aren't fun. There's nothing inherently fun about being converted into a hive mind vessel without your knowledge or without anything popping up, and then just dying to a heart attack, or having someone walk you out the airlock, or having someone have you go attack the captain and die because there's nothing you can do about it. It's just if there's no way for you to play against that, there's nothing you can learn from the experience to prevent the next time. There's just nothing fun about it. And a lot of the hive mind abilities really don't mesh well with the hive mind idea, because if the hive mind uses an ability on you and you realize you're a vessel, you're going to go get yourself removed, and then you're going to tell everybody there's a hive mind, and then they're just SOL. So the best times for them to use those abilities is while simultaneously killing you, so because they're going to lose you anyway, and then they don't have you telling everybody there's a hive mind. So they just don't really mesh well with the hive mind objectives. I think is a big problem.
Thank you for that. X-Maniac says, has no clear identity. People do not know how to handle a hive mind round or interact with it really. Keep out till it has a clear concept and idea for people to engage with. Mahiza says, I think hive mind should be rolled during trader rounds and changeling rounds or something, not its own mode. Cherry Donut wants to talk about passive. That's not relevant right now.
It doesn't sound too great to me to pair it alongside Trader, because I think the worst round we have right now is Trader Link. It's cancer every time. You have traders and then changelings, which are the worst antag. And to see that with hive minds, I think would be even worse. I don't know.
Orange Bottle mentions that this should not be this should be a poll rather than a community meeting topic. There's no reason why it can't be both. The community meeting is a good time for people to bring up individual concerns and like comments and things like that, especially because we have Kinky in here, who I didn't know worked on the mode, or else I would have taken that into consideration before. But this is a good time to get like easy feedback and back and forth. We can still do a poll. It's not like
what we can do is what we did last time with Changeling and fucking Overthrow. Just run a poll in all the game modes with the IRV poll, so we can see which ones are actually most popular.
We
if
got
Hive Mind is not very high scoring, we can just, bin it.
Zinc wants to talk again, and then Kinky wants to speak.
All right. So, I mean, on the topic of the Hive Minds, it's I've only had a couple of rounds experience with them, but every time I've seen it, it's very disorganized. It's very it feels like it's lacking something major, and like that the other antags have, like Nuke Ops have, and it feels like it's a bad non-enjoyable round when Hive Minds are rolled as the antags. So for this reason, I'm saying that, yeah, we really should consider removing it, at least until it's thoroughly reworked. Yeah.
Thank you, Zinc. Kinky, go ahead.
Yeah, there's just one thing I wanted to say, but I have noticed that. What?
You okay?
Hello?
Yeah, like some of the game mode, even as the sole person coding on it, you sometimes lose control of the mode. Like, did you know that the mode's actually called assimilation?
Yes.
No, but I wouldn't be terribly bummed. Like, some people are feeling a bit sorry for me that mode's going to get if people don't like mode. But no, I've learned a lot designing it. And if it were to get removed, then I definitely consider either reworking it or taking what I've learned. Although I will say that there are a lot of people that I've seen and a lot of misconceptions floating around.
I think that everyone's biggest concern about it, if you want my very hot take on it, is that there's not enough action, and it's hard to distinguish from an extent.
Oh, definitely. No, I understand. And part of that was the design intention, but I may have pulled it a bit far in one direction, not far enough in the other. For example, the major rework that added a lot of extra powers means that antags themselves can fight between each other rather easily and push each other towards the end game sooner. But yeah.
Well, let me give you an example. With Changeling, there's some very big, obvious tells about there being Changelings, like most obvious in Armblade. With Hive Mind, the most you're going to see really is just like people losing their implants or acting a bit strange. And I don't think people find that too engaging. What a hard tell is for Hive Mind, as far as I see, is that little pink shield they can get, sort of like.
Yeah.
And if there's more stuff that made it a little bit more obvious like that, I feel that there'd be a bit more action to it, and people wouldn't feel so disengaged from the round.
Yeah, no, obviously I did design it with the intention of being rather stealthy, but on the flip side, if changing that, making it more obvious, would also mean that they need some more direct combat powers, for example. And to be fair, I think one of the best points that I've heard as an argument against mode is that it unironically doesn't work on this server. As in, I've seen that the original implementation was a far slower game mode than it is now. And that would definitely work a lot better if this was MRP or high RP, but yeah.
All right. Does anyone else have any stuff to say on it, Hulk?
Subject wants to talk about Blood Cult. I have something. John Krabs has something short to say, so please, John Krabs, say something short.
So, from a security standpoint, and I guess also from playing the actual Antag role, it really doesn't feel like Hive Mind adds a lot to the round experience, and it doesn't really make it more complicated per se. It feels like really it simplifies and dumbs down a round, whereas something like Traitor would make it more complicated, or Changeling or something like that. For me, Hive Mind feels a lot like, okay, this is really just like a mad rush to fight against the other Hive Minds, get the most people as quickly as you can and identify who the other ones are, and hope that one of the other Hive Minds doesn't screw it up and let security know. Because if it isn't like really late game and everybody has brute force and security finds out, it's basically over at that point. and it doesn't really feel fun to be a hive mind, and it doesn't feel fun to fight a hive mind either, because really it's just okay, if they don't have the one mind, then it's pretty simple and pretty easy, and if they do, then it's just okay, now it's some team deathmatch against the station.
Arcane had some points that I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you speaking role just because we're over here already. But they had 4 points. 1, hive minds have a higher kill potential than most antags. 2, can silently convert to their team. 3, late game becomes a poor version of revs. 4, the only way to prevent a hive mind conversion is with implants, and they don't always work. That's true. There's not a. Oranges is upset about how I'm pronouncing kinky.
Kanky. There's no I in there.
Kinky. I'm sorry. Here we go. Bod 901. Problem is hive minds, once it goes live, half the station versus half the station. I think if you go to the station wasn't really involved, what was going on. So would hive mind versus hive mind not being gangs at the same time. So what I say is central command there's a lot of words and the formatting is really odd. It's really strange formatting. I'm sorry.
Well, I think if it comes down to it, we're going to end up having a vote similar to just IRV vote, basically.
I think so.
We'll see what the community opinion is on it. Yes. But any other topics before we want to close this out? Because we're about 23 minutes past our time. It's good. We have a lot to talk about, but we should still stick to the schedule.
Yeah, I've got stuff to go take care of. Oh God, this is a lot. If I can bring us first topic of the day, okay, I'm just going to read this later, but we're not going to go back to the first topic and start. We're not going to go on this whole giant loop.
All right. Well, Webley, anything else to say?
No.
I have one thing that.
All right.
But unless are you done? Because it's gonna have to be
I'm done on my ends. I only have those 2 things to talk about. Sorry, I couldn't make it for the beginning of the meeting, but
that's fine.
What's up?
Actually,
What's up?
I had one thing, but I'm not sure we should talk about it now. The medium roleplay thing.
Oh, the
Like
medium roleplay server.
hosting a server for like a week.
A week? Like a week for a server that's just medium roleplay? Medium roleplay rules?
There's a forum thread according to subject, so we have discussion medium there at least.
I think I want to see more of what the community has to say before we actually talk about that ourselves.
Yeah.
What was your point, Hulk?
Oh no, it has to be the last point. I assure you. So if you're done, are you good?
I'm done.
Okay. Well, everyone can now speak in the channel as they please. You can if you rejoin.
Well,
if
I mean, they're all server muted. How do you plan doing that?
No, destroy this now.
Wait, did it not go through? Oh God!
Don't do it.
Dude, to mute everyone? Is this just?
I gave everyone speaking permissions.
Oh right. So if you want to be able to speak, you have to leave the channel and rejoin because Discord is ass.
Yes. Okay. I think it's. LMAO. I think it's working now. Yes, it's working.
Based and red pilled.
Yes.
Hello.
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 Did we go over
voice activity.
rotating round start law sets?
It's a very red pilled comment, Lexia. Thank you. Medium roleplay is just subtle power gaming.
Is there an
when's my
There's not an unmute all button.
Question: will you re-enable clock
Patreon
close?
donut can't speak.
Well, that's Arcane. I know why. Hold on a second. Wait, it says you can talk.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
But anyway, on the topic of server pulse, Clockcle, it ranked lowest last time we did one a year ago.
It was a long time ago, buddy.
No, it wasn't. It was like this. What was it? Fucking mid-year 2018. Wasn't that long ago?
I've seen people like new players in B Station really like the game mode, so I think you should try again. Like, can it really hurt?
I mean,
I don't think it can.
The outstanding problems with Clockcult. Hello? With Clockcult were that it just, first off, the maintainers weren't fucking fixing it. I did say Clockcult. Triggers?
That's another issue. We don't talk about this.
Look, the maintainers aren't working on it because Zeus was the only one working on it, and he left. And Joan is not around to work on it anymore. So the problems with it are mostly just gonna stick around.
I
And
think
these are
Joan is still a maintainer.
problems. They're the problems with the entire game mode as a whole.
Now, I feel like, because I don't know how, but I've talked to like 6 people now in the past week who all remember the original Clock Cult. It seems like if we could find a way to just try to rebuild Clock Cult around the original design document, that might be worth trying to rebuild the game mode around. Now, being said, I don't know if any of that's still.
Okay, here's the thing. Clock Cult was originally ported from VG Station. All the assets were from VG, and so was the game. And it was basically just Blood Cult with different sprites, which wasn't very fun. I'll say that much.
It had a great aesthetic.
Then they moved it to like a tower defense thing on a
Tower defense thing is horrible.
And
the building aspect of the Clock Cult, like before the tower defense one, was like really fun to do.
It
had a lot of like gimmick items that I liked.
One thing that I never got to see that I wish to once fucking see before I fucking shuffle off this mortal coil, I actually want to see Narcy and Ravad duke it out. Not gonna lie.
Well, it does happen, but it's unfortunately very lame. Now, what happens is
Isn't that bad?
they fight each other for like 10 seconds. The way it works is that
They don't even do that. They just kind of bump into each other.
sort of. Well, they have some voice line, not voice lines, just
Yeah, they have
dialogue.
some lines. Yeah.
And it's a percent chance based on how many followers each deity has. And then there's like a really loud ear rape sound, and so one of them just explodes.
We need to have a massive beam struggle that cuts the station apart.
I mean, I was gonna make the joke of fucking both of them going full on Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann on the fucking station.
Oh yeah, are we going to enable Segbarks?
No.
Listen,
Wait,
security doesn't
Actually, that is something. That is something I know.
Armulin and PKP both learned their lesson about that. I'm not going to be the third headman to make that mistake.
Wait, okay, what did happen with Segborgs? What did happen?
The
Well,
community
they were all
wants
valid
them.
hunting assholes. That's what happened.
Have you tried just
Make
banning
Segborgs
retries that play 'em?
whitelisted roles.
And so no matter how big you made a text that says your laws are Asimov, not space, they didn't care. They didn't follow Asimov. They
No.
followed space law.
What
and
you
they
have to
beat the
do
prisoners.
is every time they like use their stun button, the same text, the red text appears in their chat.
Have you tried just banning them?
I mean, okay, I'm going to bet just like fucking. Oh god, yeah. I'm trying to give my layman's experience.
Follow the Asimov, they just did also arrest people that were causing station damage because it was quite annoying and it was a way to stop shit.
Also, about the whole fucking heads thing, the only thing I'll say is that the biggest problem we have, for example, on Terry is with condom captains. Captains are the biggest problems on Terry. The rest of them are actually high-key fine. But that's
Did you just
really
say
it.
Kaiki?
I said high-key.
High key.
Oh.
Look, if I want to talk about Kaiki, okay, there's a friend of mine who plays a fucking Jewish lawyer on
There
Terry.
we go. So it was during the whole DDoS problem, but Event Hall actually had an issue where there was no config whatsoever. And because of that, there were actual Segborgs on the Event Hall. And immediately people used it to arrest like literally anybody who weren't even doing any crimes or anything. And ended up having like 5 people in jail.
Based
I don't know why we have like 100 people serving muted, but if you want to be unserving muted, please send me a DM if I miss you or something.
So part of what happened too is we didn't use the role this time to speak. We just unmuted people, and apparently when I remuted them, it applied like a real server mute across the server. So
okay, that's not very epic.
Yeah, it's not epic at all.
What an absolute lad!
Nice
one.
So I want to bring up a real point about Hive Mind. I feel like a big problem with Hive Mind is not like they don't really have a real objectives. So I feel like a good way to push objectives and if you have something that forces the Hive Minds to fight each other, but also puts them against the crew, is to give them something like hijack the shuttle. Then that would give them a reason why they want to do the one mind, because one minding would make hijacking the shuttle so much easier. But you could do it without your one mind.
There are a lot of people who don't really care about objectives whatsoever, so kind of forcing on someone is
Hive mind
really
is
fast.
stealth revs. Change my
Maybe just
mind.
make station objectives more lucrative.
how
That would
this
be
works.
Well,
The
Or is it-
DNA
I
vault
don't-
in itself is absolutely crazy. It's
Look,
only
man.
the asteroid that's pretty shit.
I
I'm
have
the
one
man. I'm the
thing
man who
to
spit.
say
I'm the man who
about.
throws spitballs.
Hold
Be
on.
honest, most objectives will end up boring unless you can actually say, next time I want to be a traitor, I want to have this sort of objective. Maybe people would like that. A few, not many.
I have one thing to say, and if people think that silicon policing is like not a problem, then why are cyborgs a problem if they have to follow it?
They usually don't. That's like I think
Well,
that's why.
then why
Silicon
don't we just
policy
ban
is a
them?
problem. That's what I've been saying.
I think the biggest thing is most people don't realize Silicon policy exists. And I mean a diligent player will, but
Here's the thing: it takes up half the rules page, and I can understand not wanting to read that because who wants to read half a page of rules for fucking silicons? That's stupid. No one's going to do that.
And in regards to Silicon, I'm just gonna like reiterate what fucking Terranaut has apparently DM'd to Hulk and fucking talked to me about, which is the idea of just doing the other law sets as a testing for like a week or two, maybe. Just to, and as weird as it sounds, okay, for example, me and him kind of discussed the situation where, and this falls under ACOG, I know, but kind of knowingly breaking or like kind of bringing it to like fringe cases, right? To like see how a Silicon main would react to it, right? I know.
Basically, what you're saying is that silicon mains are subhuman monkey. We should put them in a test environment to study them.
Absolutely.
Listen,
I can't agree more.
Experiment, anyways. So.
All right, actually, I just remembered that I have a hot take miscellaneous point that came up like 2 weeks ago about explosive stands. And because I remember there was originally a trick with explosive stands where you could make a locker explosive, but by shoving a player onto like shoving the locker onto the tile of that player, you could pretty much immediately bring them into hard crit with very little effort outside of the time to be able to set up a trapped locker. Is that considered to be a actual code feature, or is that actually an issue?
That you would have to put in a issue report, and then likely the coders will get to you within a week. Not many coders are here.
Can I talk about the
yeah,
term valid for a
excuse
second
me?
and why I absolutely hate it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So I've had a lot of experiences with people who like the valid hunt, and I think that it really ruins the roleplay experience of the round because even as a sec player, I hate when people valid hunt as a sec player because like there are some antags who just want to do some really fun stuff for the round and make it fun, and it always gets ruined by somebody who's like, oh, they're valid, that means that I can just go ahead and kill them. I don't think that it's something that could really be changed with policy, but I just wish more people would kind of take into account that being valid doesn't necessarily mean that you should automatically try to round remove them.
Hey, XP player here. Fuck valid hunters. Fuck Camille Driggers.
So I think another thing to talk about this, something that's relevant, is being griefed as a if you're an antag and you get griefed, is that valid hunting, or is that you just bad luck? You're an antag. Sorry, you don't get any solace with that or administrative action with that. Like, what's the policy on that, and is it something that's open to changing?
Just don't die for it.
There is one thing about the valid salad system also. Like, let's say there's like a confirmed wizard round or confirmed war ops. Everyone in the station is confirmed with non-antag now. But that doesn't give them an excuse to break into departments and just be a general dick. And if you kill them, they'll A-help it because, non-antag.
And another thing about it is that having the valid system makes people who are valid want to kind of like resort to murder boning, because what's the solution to somebody who wants to kill you and isn't going to stop trying to kill you? It's to kill them first. So it just makes it a lot harder for people to want to do anything other than murder other people with the valid system in place.
Excuse me? Can anyone kill me?
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay, I think I was having some trouble with the mic.
That's
So,
like the
if I'm
problem.
not, I hope I'm not interrupting discussion because I wanted to say a couple words about head roll playtime restriction, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah. So basically, I think that the ideal solution would be assuming so for this case, well, we assume that we have 10 hours per head roll. So ideally it would be like say for CMO it would be 3 hours for each of the roles in the medical department and not just a flat 10 hours for the whole medical department. So you
Would be
actually
very hard to do because the way our current EXP system works is that it's per department. So basically, each job has its own datum assigned to it, and that datum has a certain EXP thing that it just gives the time to. So when every 10 minutes, your play time is recorded. And when it's recorded, it goes to XP and it will like add 10 minutes to your XP for that department. It's not per job.
Yeah,
So we
I
really
know.
could not do that without a major code change and also fucking up everyone's preference.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that it would be like the I think the ideal situations. It would actually force you to learn each role in the department, which is generally what you would want from a head role.
Yeah.
So I think disregarding the technical issues there, I don't think a CMO needs to have played genetics.
Yeah, genetics is kind of stupid.
Chemistry and doctor, yeah, but I don't think genetics is necessary for a CMO.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm playing CMO on Terry without having ever stepped foot in virology.
Oh, I forgot
I'm still doing
virology
okay.
existed.
Yes, but on the other
Virology
hand,
doesn't exist unless it does.
Well, maybe maybe
it's-
CMO isn't the best
Your
example,
genetics
but
isn't
I
tracked,
no,
right?
I understand
Can I say something on Viro?
say definitely something like say chief engineer having experience both in Atmos and station engineer would be much more preferable to just just any.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think you'd need less Atmos experience.
Yeah,
but you
Atmos-
should have some. You should have some.
Can I say something about Viro?
Sure.
No, you cannot.
Shut up. As someone who kind of mains Viro at this point, yeah, I main Viro. Yes, I'd like to say that, frankly, I don't think Viro should be the main part of CMO. It shouldn't be a requirement for getting into CMO because Viro tends to be a 50-50 if you really need to ever do anything. Most of the time when I play Viro, I'm just chilling in my room making fun diseases and just fucking around. In truth, that's literally all we do is just chill until we're needed. We just make fun things.
From Magic Mist, are you open to any game modes not currently in rotation, like Monkey Mode, Speed Rest, and Sandbox? Monkey Mode is usually complete cancer, and that's because even though it's quote-unquote fixed, it's actually still broken as fuck. It doesn't ever get played, so bugs won't get fixed. Next, Sandbox has not been touched code-wise in years, so that's out of the question, and also it's like a grief fest. There's no restrictions on anything. It would be a no rules
You
round.
would just spawn fucking welder tanks.
Yeah, you can spawn a million of those when plasma canisters and all that bullshit. And lastly, Speedy Revs is actually maybe. I would have to talk about that. Probably have a policy discussion. I do not believe that any rev round that goes beyond 45 minutes has any value. At that point, if I'm online, I just rod all the head revs and all the heads of staff because that is so lame and boring.
Based as fuck.
Hey, can we make extended more common?
Oh, Meteor Mode. Meteor Mode was first, like.
Sorry, I have a suggestion. Perhaps if it passes a certain time limit, have it like a fucking Fortnite Battle Royale where the livable area of the station just gets smaller. This has been brought to you by the Shitpost Gang. I will code this.
By the way, if I may quickly say something, can I just vouch for like the smallest fucking thing, which is, can we make CENTCOM less fucking convoluted in its layout? Because I got fucking gibbed because I didn't know where to go when I got fucking death as a death squad. I think it was actually by Gigaputty, but that's fine. I just talked it out with him.
Standard code base and have a
Look, Nay, I've never fucking set foot to fucking CENTCOM, alright? I just wanted
There's
to, I just wanted to be
open source, dude.
armed to the teeth, killing fucking Xenos.
Just
Hey,
download
can we-
it and try it.
Okay.
So, about that suggestion about extended, I would say that I think extended could be a better game mode if we say had some subtypes, like say there's an announced CENTCOM inspection and similar stuff to make the extend more than just extended, but still in the general spirit of extended.
Honestly, another issue I have with playing is we don't get many mid-round antagonists. Like, we get some specific ones, but some of them are very rare to ever get. I'll be honest, some of the antag roles I've never been able to play, and I've never been able to play Syndicate.
I just want to say that the clown should have a bee costume.
The clown does have a bee costume?
I would like to
Yeah,
ask.
the clown already has a bee costume.
Can we have a way to lower the
What
noise
the hell?
produced by the
I've
clown?
never seen this.
It's in the Autodrobe.
This
I
shows how,
go for it all the
shows
time.
how dedicated of a clown you are.
I only wear sexy clown masks.
Can we just valid all clowns?
Actually, here's a fucking hot take about the ad or the head sign thing. We need to absolutely make it so that there are not as many requirements for captain as there are other things that actually matter, like CE, like head of personnel and head of security. Just because incompetent captains are the spice.
It goes straight to the upload. The upload law is like only listen to me. If anyone attacks me, kill them. You're my slave, AI. It's the most cancerous thing I've ever seen.
We need a between step between normal jobs and departmental heads.
If anything, Captain needs more restrictions. Okay.
Captain should be the captain should be stop being seen as a less serious role and should be seen as a more serious role because they have all access and they are the highest authority on the station.
We'll be taken more seriously when half captain mains aren't brain dead retards.
Yeah.
Okay?
If the captain keeps coming into robotics to try to build a mech when I tell him to leave, can I space him? Because he keeps invading my workplace.
No, this is his station.
Navir?
Hello?
People are going to learn about
Are
this.
you going to switch the config on to enable felonied captains?
Oh, the way the config works, it's that it's not per species. It's enforce human authority or do not enforce human authority. So it would allow stuff like plasma men captains and.
See, because of the
Part of playing a non-human race is that you cannot be head of staff, and that's not a thing I want to change because we're not a furry server. Okay.
buddy,
Human captain.
I want
we
to play
can
Plasma
solve
Man, the captain,
the bad
and
captains
gas
with
the
one
entire
simple
cabin.
change. Just allow felonied head rolls because all of the old players have felonied slot, so you wouldn't have new unexperienced captains and so.
But there's
You
still
need to have a felony
degenerates.
character to play captain.
I didn't say that inexperience was the biggest problem, Shaza. I said that being brain dead was the biggest problem, and all felonids are brain dead.
Navir, are you scared?
Isn't the entire point of
by the way,
Captain
can
that he doesn't do anything?
People are going to learn how to
yeah.
play
Comments
these
on the map.
roles
Can we just
either
make
through watching
felonies
other
automatic?
people set an example or by looking on the wiki. And the wiki is like in a state of disrepair.
You know, okay,
And
I'm gonna
it
say
kind of comes down to like how the captain uses the announcement system and stuff like that.
I was gonna say potentially, could we re-add adventure mode?
Okay, so the problem with the fucking away missions is that anything you add in this game ever, people will figure out how to game if it's the same every time, and so it ended up just being a loot pinata.
Agreed.
Basically,
yeah.
I was muted. I want to touch up on something about the captain stuff. Captains really need more restrictions or job banned if they do stupid stuff.
Like,
something that happened to me like 2 days ago thing. There was a captain called Vladimir Lenin, and the first thing he did is walk into the upload and make me a communist, and then alone up suddenly.
Oh wait, that was you?
Delta. Yeah, that was me. It was
Like,
fucking
wait, do you
annoying and
remember-
retarded, and honestly, that
Wait,
kind
do
of
you
stuff
remember when
happens
you
to
went full? Do you remember your Borg? The Borg you had with you?
No, I don't. Sorry.
I was the Borg you had, who was fucking, who pretty much was just who went at this connection range and didn't have the updated laws.
No.
Like, personally, I've been yelling at captains who've been uploading, like, catch-all laws like that, where, like, everything is non-human but me. If I die, kill everybody, blah, blah, blah. I've been yelling at them for like metagaming, because personally I believe if you're going to make a law, you need to like make it as a threat of some kind. So like all nuke ops are not human. So you have to confirm the threat before you actually like make a law like that.
A lot of it says kill everyone if I die. It breaks more than just one rule, I think.
That should
I
be
want
the
the next time I am captain.
Law
make
4,
myself-
Law 4, convince a crew that it has a cult at all costs.
Part
I
of
mean,
the issue with
I was
captain
going to ask
is
if
there's no role for it. The captain doesn't have a defined job like any other head of staff. So if you're the captain, you don't have anything to do except upload logs and dick around and maybe give people access.
Yo,
I have a question.
You should probably
What's the
stay in
time
touch with
limit?
your heads.
Just in general, I would
Next time
say-
I am captain, I want to make the AI anti-mob and me the only human, and say that everyone working fine actually harms me, and that's the only way that harms me, just to mess with everyone thinking it's anti-mob.
What?
Anyway,
So,
I actually have one more thing to say. Like, what's the chance rate of getting antagonists? How does it work?
So
You
basically,
got
what
all
happens
of your
is
money.
during setup, the game is going to go and roll through. Basically, everyone's going to be determined who can and can't be an antag first. Then it decides what game mode it's going to be. Then it just then it locks in. Okay, this person who's not like traitor banned is now a traitor, and then it decides your job. So you're never going to have a situation where you would have gotten a traitor, but you had high security instead.
Wait, here's a question. I've never gotten. I don't know if I'm traitor banned or not.
Well, usually, if you go into your game preferences and you go and check to see which antags you have enabled, it will tell you if you're banned from an antag.
Oh, then I'm
if
fine.
Not,
Yeah. I've once just set my thing down to just virologist and left all the modes on. Have not gotten an antag. I did that for like 3 rounds just to see if there was a chance to get it.
Then that's just bad luck, because we still need to go and bring back antag rep, and that is an argument for a different time that no one will.
Fuck antag rep.
You are objectively wrong.
Antag
But
rep, not amazing, because if I didn't want to play antag for a week, I would guarantee an antag afterwards. It was great.
No, I have to say that I talked to the guys who made it, and based on their math from it, antag rev wasn't even having that much of an effect on a round as they actually thought it was. If you saved up all your antag rep, then yes, you could get a really good chance of getting it. But round to round, it wasn't even having that big of a difference. I think
Wait,
people got
so
really
antag
mad at it
rep
for no
was
reason.
I would just say don't do it. Just
It's disabled now, so whatever.
I was here to say.
Anyway, I'm gonna go. Just I wanted to get some things cleared up. By chance, is sentient disease did sentient disease ever spawn? I've never seen around with it.
Yeah, it's rare.
I just saw round
like a
sentient disease like.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
wins.
Thanks for the answer. I'm gonna.
If you guys want to have a honk party, come on down to Cloudflare simulation.
Alright, so on head restrictions, the ID and captain should probably have a silicon requirement.
I hate to cut you off, but I'm going to delete this channel. Goodbye.
Oh no.
Bye. We're losers. You'll never.